Hashirama fought Jigen, the vessel of Isshiki. Is that where the mystery of the new Ten Tails begins? The cells of the First Hokage, Victor's artificial divine tree? It all leads to one shocking truth. The new Jubi might be Hashirama's body. Sounds like absolute madness, right? But let's set aside our initial emotions and look at the raw facts, because the lore of the Naruto and Boruto universes hides details that have been right in front of us this whole time. We're used to thinking of the God of Shinobi as an unstoppable force whose legacy became the foundation of the hidden villages. But think for a second, how exactly did this invincible titan die? The official story says he died during the first great Shinobi War, and that's it. No details, no legendary battles, no specific killer. A man capable of regenerating wounds without hand signs and possessing chakra reserves comparable to the tailed beasts simply vanished from the pages of history. Now let's remember who was lurking in the shadows all this time. Isshiki Otsutsuki. After Kaguya's betrayal thousands of years ago, he survived inside the body of a monk named Jigen, slowly regaining his strength and planning his grand design. Isshiki was on Earth during Hashirama's era, and he desperately needed a new Ten Tails to grow a divine tree because the original Jubi had been taken by Kaguya. Here we come to the main biological mystery of the Shinobi world, the wood element. We're used to seeing Mokuton as just a very powerful Kekkei Genkai, but if we analyze the mechanics of the universe, it becomes absolutely clear that this is not a normal element. It is a complete biological anomaly. Hashirama is the only person in history who was born with this power naturally. Even Naruto, as the direct reincarnation of Ashura just like the first Hokage, did not inherit wood element. Why? Because Mokuton was never originally meant for humans. Think about the fundamental properties of this element. It aggressively absorbs chakra, resonates with pure life energy, and is capable of instantly suppressing the will of the tailed beasts. This is an exact replica of the properties of the divine tree itself. Hashirama's cells possess incredible life force that literally consumes the bodies of those who cannot genetically handle it. They behave like a parasite, like a sprouting seed of something cosmic, and we have direct canonical confirmation of this connection. The White Zetsu army, created from the ancient victims of the infinite Tsukuyomi, is essentially living plant matter of the original divine tree, and that is precisely why Hashirama's cells synchronize with them so perfectly without rejection. The first Hokage is not just a unique mutant. His genetic code, for unknown reasons, evolved in such a way that it became identical to the genetic code of the sacred plant of the Otsutsuki clan. Now let's move to the Boruto era and analyze the actions of the Kara organization. You probably remember Victor, the old man who at first glance seemed like just an ambitious scientist in the background, but his experiments fundamentally change our understanding of the lore. Victor managed to artificially grow a divine tree. From what exactly? From the cells of the first Hokage. This is an undeniable fact from the anime canon. A Kara scientist took Hashirama's genetic material and turned it into a tree capable of absorbing the chakra of nearby people and forming a nutrient fruit. And here, our chain of logic snaps shut with a deafening click. If an ordinary Kara member, acting essentially alone, was able to create an artificial tree from a tiny handful of cells, then what was the leader of the organization capable of? The true Otsutsuki, with thousands of years of experience and access to his clan's technology. Victor wasn't just experimenting blindly. He relied on Kara's classified databases. He knew exactly that Hashirama's cells were the perfect catalyst. But where did this information originally come from for Jigen? Let's reconstruct a possible sequence of events from that time. Isshiki Otsutsuki desperately needed a Jubi. The Ten Tails is not just a mindless monster of chakra, it is a biomechanical seed of the divine tree. Normally, Otsutsuki bring this seed with them when colonizing planets, but Isshiki was betrayed and stripped of all his resources. He needed an alternative material with immense life energy density and a genetic predisposition to absorb natural chakra. And right at that moment, Hashirama Senju appears on the world stage, a man whose body is literally made of the same material as the sacred plant. The sudden death of the first Hokage, in this context, no longer seems like a narrative oversight. What if it wasn't even death in the usual sense? Isshiki, controlling Jigen's karma-enhanced body, could have secretly eliminated Hashirama, taken his body, and used his unique physiology as the base biomass to cultivate a new juvenile Ten Tails. This perfectly explains why Jigen's pocket Jubi looks different, why it is significantly smaller than the original, and why it has to be kept in an isolated secret dimension, restrained by special rods that suppress its innate transformation abilities. This Ten Tails didn't come from space. It could have been artificially grown from the flesh of the most powerful shinobi in Earth's history. Of course, a strong counter-argument arises. What about the fact that Hashirama's body was successfully resurrected by Orochimaru during the Chunin exams, and then again during the Fourth Great War using the Edo Tensei technique? That would mean his soul was safely in the pure world, and his DNA was accessible to Konoha's scientists. It's a logical question, but let's recall the strict mechanics of Edo Tensei. The technique requires only a negligible amount of genetic material. Orochimaru needed nothing more than a tiny fragment of DNA, a conditional drop of blood or a particle of skin, which he could easily obtain from the village's old reserves or from the sites of great battles of the past. And for the resurrection process itself, what's required is a soul and a living sacrifice as a vessel, not the original dead body. The real physical body of Hashirama could have completely disappeared within Isshiki's laboratories. Moreover, in the Boruto universe, we were introduced to the concept of omnipotence, a divine ability that can alter the very fabric of reality and human perception. Yes, Ada uses this power unconsciously, but Isshiki, as a high-ranking Otsutsuki, fully understood the mechanisms behind divine arts. Even if he did not possess omnipotence directly, advanced technologies for brainwashing and memory alteration were available to his clan. The disappearance of Hashirama's body, the erased memory of a colossal secret battle between an Otsutsuki vessel and the God of Shinobi, all of this information could have been deliberately cut out of world history so that no one in future generations would ever begin searching for the true origin of the Pocket Ten Tails. This grand theory casts an entirely new, unsettling light on the current events in the two Blue Vortex manga. Just look at the evolution of the Shinju. These sentient trees possess their own consciousness. They copy the appearance and elements of the personalities of the shinobi they have absorbed. But most importantly, all of these humanoid entities actively use wood element. The new Ten Tails, having split into separate entities, is demonstrating on a basic instinctual level the very power that once made Hashirama a living legend. If this particular Jubi was indeed grown from the flesh of the First Hokage, then the Mokuton now being used by the new antagonists to destroy their enemies is not just a randomly copied technique or a natural coincidence. It is the direct physiological legacy of Hashirama himself, twisted by the endless hunger of the Otsutsuki and turned against the very village he built with such love. This is an incredibly dark, yet philosophically perfect plot twist. The tree that was meant to symbolize life and protect Konoha in the form of the First Hokage's majestic forests is now returning to consume the entire world. And here we arrive at the most intriguing and terrifying question of this entire theory. If the juvenile Jubi truly carries reprocessed Hashirama DNA, then how exactly is this hidden factor influencing its current uncontrolled evolution? We clearly know the basic rule. The Ten Tails must devour a living Otsutsuki in order to grow into a full divine tree. But what if the presence of Ashura's genes, he being the reincarnation of the direct descendant of the goddess, inside this artificial entity has already triggered an irreversible system malfunction? What if the suddenly sentient Shinju are only the first phase of the awakening of an ancient entity that, at the cellular level, remembers absolutely everything? I'm ready to dig even deeper and break down exactly how Otsutsuki genetic memory works and why the current villains in two Blue Vortex might be connected to Naruto far more closely than we can imagine. I'm waiting for your command. Continue. And for now, the mystery of the creation of the Ten Tails is the most fascinating puzzle in the entire universe. From canon, we know that the remains of the god Shibai Otsutsuki were in Jigen's possession for a long time. It is entirely possible that it was from his divine body that the new Jubi was originally created. And if we recall the nature of the divine tree, we can see a direct connection to wood element and Hashirama's unique genes. I have already explored theories about the origin of this beast, but there are still far too many unanswered questions. One thing is clear: Hashirama's cells and the true power of the Ten Tails are deeply intertwined on a fundamental level. While we wait for these details to be revealed, I plan to dig into other mysteries of the lore. For example, I have some interesting thoughts about Hagoromo's legacy, which could be revealed on an incredibly massive scale specifically within the events of Boruto. Write in the comments which topics and theories I should explore in the next videos. Good luck to everyone.